Well, howdy, all you collector car fans out there. This is Jason, the owner and founder of Southernbush Motorsports. So this is an interesting Tales from the Bush. I found both these cars. The yellow GTX you're going to see in the beginning, I actually own that car. So this is what this whole Tales from the Bush is. I personally prefer cars that are restored back to the way they're supposed to be, the way they came from the factory. What I came across a lot of times was obviously people like to customize. But when you got, in this instance, when you got two super rare cars, super desirable cars, this is the 1970 444 speed pistol grip GTX, and it's a factory air grabber car. This car was completely numbers matching from front to back. Whoever restored this car, I actually bought this car. That's my car, my trailer right there. Whoever restored this car, I don't know what they were thinking. And again, most of this would be because I prefer cars that I buy to be completely restored back to the way they were from the factory. This car was beautiful. It was super solid, super straight. Everything on it was all numbers matching. Fender tag, build sheet, everything. That's my car on my trailer in front of my old house in South Carolina. My issue with this car is when you restore a car and you go to this much detail to rip that car apart and restore it, why do stupid stuff to it? That's just my opinion. Why do things to it? Why not put the car back to original? But you know, to each is his own. You restore the car the way you want, it's your car. But it just killed me to buy this car because the car was a super rare car. Not you know, a Hemi car or anything like that, but this was a 444 speed 70 GTX, all numbers matching, pistol grip shifter. You can see it right there. It's an N96 car, pistol grip shifter 440. It was a true keeper. This is the kind of car that you do keep and restore. And then you get to this. Look at that interior. What the F were you thinking? Seats aren't right, carpet's not right, dash not right, steering wheel's not right. Car was like bits and pieces. I mean, you went that far to get this car looking so good. I mean, you completely changed the color pattern on the car. You spent a ton of money on those custom seats. They didn't come with GTX on the seats. You spent so much money on those seats. It was just a waste. I personally don't like the way that looks. I mean, it was a fun car to drive around for the week or two that I had it. I bought this car with a really good friend of mine just because it was like I was stuck and I needed to buy a whole bunch of cars at one time and I didn't have enough cash on me. And a friend, look at that big old pistol grip shifter. Yeehaw, giddy up. And then you got that stupid loop-de-doo steering wheel. And then look at the way the door panels were done. It's like they finished the outside of the car right and then just gave up on the interior. I don't know. But you spent so much money customizing the interior of that car, and that looks stupid to me. I'm sorry. You know, to be honest, when I found the car, I was super excited about it. But then I got to this. So, I mean, in my opinion, for future generations that are restoring cars or cars that they're going to buy, I prefer to restore cars, like I said, back to original condition. When you start customizing, you start knocking out the market value of that car. You start knocking out the people that are going to want to buy that car. Look at that air grabber setup. This is a real 1970 440 pistol grip 4-speed air grabber GTX. In itself, it was a beautiful car. With all these changes, I mean, look at the engine compartment. Nothing in that engine compartment is right. The intake's wrong, the valve covers are wrong, all the silver plumbing is wrong. But, you know, I mean, you can see how rough that hood was, but that was the original air grabber GTX. You had all the makings of a perfect, beautiful muscle car. But in my opinion, you screwed it all up by not doing it right. Look at that. Nothing in that engine compartment looks factory. Why go through the process of restoring this beautiful car and not turn it back to factory? Because, you know, like I said, when you don't turn a car back to the way it was, especially a car like this, it's a pretty exclusive car. I think you take the desirability factor out by 100%. And you see that right there? Those are called Bondo bubbles. instead of replacing that quarter panel, or that lower quarter, they just bonded the hell out of it. And it doesn't make any sense. You have such a beautiful car to start with, and you half-ass it like this. Doesn't mean you need to restore a car to NOS. It doesn't mean you need to restore a car back to perfect factory condition. Was this car worth a rotisserie restoration? I mean, it's up there in the numbers. I probably wouldn't have spent 70 grand on restoring this car back to that, but, you know, it deserved better than this. I ended up picking this car up cheap enough because the guy knew that he messed up. He knew he messed up. I explained to him that he messed up, and that really the only thing to do with this car is either drive it and have fun with it, or take this thing apart and restore it back to the way it's supposed to be. Now we're getting into this other car, 68 Coronet RT. This was such a beautiful car. I mean, you want to talk about a car that was restored right. This guy took it to the T. I mean, that body was beautiful, the paint was beautiful, the restoration was beautiful, the interior was beautiful, car was straight, car was super solid, original up north car, there wasn't a lot of rust on the car, not a lot of panels replaced or anything like that. This car was straight. Look at this thing. This car is tight. Man, this car just rocked it. Doesn't matter if I'm showing the license plate or anything. This was 15 years ago when I did this car, when I took these pictures. This car was absolutely beautiful. There wasn't a better way to restore this car than the way that this person did it. This car was straight, clean, perfect, all new. Everything was perfect on it. The car was just absolutely beautiful. When you take a look at this car, it's absolutely stunning. Straight, everything was nice, everything was put together properly. Look at the side picture of that. You can't fake that stuff. And this is the biggest thing about what this Tales from the Bush is about is, that's not right. What were you thinking? Like I said, when you're restoring these cars, I understand that some people want to, you know, if you're doing an individual restoration, do whatever you want. It's your car. But when you start doing any customization to it after really hard restoration, like obviously this car went through, like if you put a CD player in it instead of the factory AM, FM radio, you're going to start losing value on the restoration of that car and the sale price of that car. It's just the way it is. I mean, this car was gorgeous. I would have took this thing home. If I didn't already have a car on my trailer, I would have took this thing home. It was absolutely beautiful. When you take a look at the interior pictures, which I believe are coming up soon, good God, man. You know how much money it must have taken to restore this car to the position that it was in right here? Look down the side of that car. Look at the taillight. Look at the RT symbol. Look at the bumblebee stripe. The bumblebee stripe, this car was done perfect. Look at the interior of this car. Nah, they didn't have the RT, you know, emblem on the floor mats, but it is what it is. The car is brought back to original. That's the most important part of it to me. Again, I'm a really big person of restoring cars back to the way they came. If you want to do something to it after that, you own it, you know, do what you want, but the original hardcore restoration, the car should be restored back to the way it came from the factory, to the T of the build sheet and the fender tag. My opinion only. How clean this interior was restored, how nice it was restored, the seats are perfect. I know the pictures are blurry, but you gotta remember this was 20 years ago. Digital cameras sucked at that point. Door panels are exactly the way they're supposed to be. Nice and straight, nice and clean. A lot of money was just spent on this car. This is why we're going to get to the point. I always got a punchline. We're going to get to the point of why this car upset me so much. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful car. Restored 100% back to original interior except for the RT symbols on the floor mats. She was a beauty. There was no question about it. You should have heard this thing. When he started this thing up, I mean, it wasn't quite a factory exhaust. It was more straight pipe, but, you know, look at the details. You got the sticker on there for the tire changing. Everything was just perfect. I mean, he probably had 60 grand into the restoration of this car. And look at this thing. Look at that numbers. Anybody that knows fender tags, look at that thing. Loaded car. Trunk was done right. Trunk was done back to perfection. I'm getting to a point, I promise you, I'm getting to a point. because this is the one thing that upsets me about cars that are gone this far into a restoration. And I just don't. I just get to a point where it's like, here it is. What were you thinking? None of that is original. None of that even looks original. You spent this much time and money on restoring this car, personal opinion only, this is just the way I see things, and then you come up with that. That engine compartment is absolutely not correct. Not even close to correct. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with this engine compartment. It is beautiful. But it's all aftermarket stuff. Those red wires, that didn't come factory. The air cleaners, the valve closers, none of that stuff came factory. The battery, that didn't come factory. This is just my opinion. What were you thinking? You spent this much money, this much time, this much effort to restore this car, and then you do that crap under the hood? I mean, you can think of me as a bad guy, think of me as what you want. But if you're going to do a car like this to this extent, where this car is practically rotisserie, I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous, and then you pull off this crap, that's not right. Thanks for coming by and checking out our Tales from the Bush. This is Jason, the owner and founder of Southern Bush Motorsports. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you can contribute with our Patreon page, that sure would help. We'll see you again soon with another Tales from the Bush.